Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Shiva the Destroyer, who is going to be the War of Champions reward character. She is the character you can gain once you qualify for War of Champions by hitting a specific goal. Generally speaking, it has been milestones in the past for characters like Angus and Eris, but more information on how to gain the character at War of Champions to follow. Visually, Shiva looks immense. On the right hand side you can see her all armored up. She's got these number 6s on her, and that is because it is Mythic War Season 6. I love the feathers as well. She's of course got the growl, of course, and she has actually got a backpack, if you can kind of see it on the back. I won't talk about that. If we look at the art on the left hand side, it looks amazing. Obviously Shiva just coming towards you head on. Very, very intimidating. We haven't seen art like this before. It does look really good. If we look at the stats, at level 1440, limit break 3, she has a massive 44,095 attack, 22,047 defense, and 22,047 HP. She's going to be a tough character, which we have had it with Shiva before, but is a little bit strange. Damage roll, and of course going to be a Gold Mythic, and she is going to be joining the Kingdom Allegiance. Now, checking out Shiva's Adrenaline Rush, it is called Powerful Predator. It's a 66 AP cost rush. Attack a line of enemies for 400% damage each. This fighter gets 50% of their max AP and 100% attack for 2 turns. This obviously is going to be pretty nice. The damage can obviously be amplified by weapons. It isn't crazy high, but her base attack stat is really high. Obviously it's going to rely quite heavily on weapons, multipliers coming in, damage buffs, because 400% isn't crazy. It can crit, just a note, but if she somehow gets a second rush after doing this, she's going to have a 100% attack buff, because she gets her max AP boost by 50%. That means that the second rush can come in on command on the next turn, guaranteed with a character like Laura. So yeah, with the 100% attack buff on top, suddenly that 400% is looking very, very good indeed. But let's test out this Adrenaline Rush just to see it in action. Okay, so we have Shiva's Adrenaline Rush up and ready, and we are going to use it against this bottom line. We're just going to hit the rush, and we're going to see one character get taken out, and a second character get taken out. The second character getting taken out was with a ranged attack. That's kind of funny. Now you do see some other things happening with Shiva. With her kit, you can kind of see on the next turn, potentially she's going to rush again with that 100% attack. Naturally, this is going to be very interesting to see where that's coming from. Most likely the passives. But the high potential of very early power with Shiva by the look of things. The 100% attack does last for 2 turns. So, for instance, if you don't get these things happen where she can rush instantly next turn, with the 50% AP gain, you can get obviously commanded and so on and so forth. Or you can kind of try and do it naturally. It'll be a bit harder, but I will say it is possible. Now, if we look at the upgrades on the Adrenaline Rush, you can see at grade 3 it gets a 200% damage boost. So it goes from 200% damage up to 400% damage. At grade 5, it gets an upgrade where this fighter gets 100% attack for 2 turns, and then at limit break 2 it gets an upgrade where this fighter gets 50% of their max AP. Those are going to be straight up additions to the damage. Now, in the past, when it came to getting the characters in War of Champions, we pretty much just got them all at the same time. We didn't gradually get them, so you should be able to get everything done here, but it is based on how the character is going to be basically acquired in War of Champions. This character does look a lot stronger than the other ones when it comes to pure attack. Obviously, Eris was very good on defense, but very good so far on attack. And yeah, the damage output potential of this character is going to be really, really high. The weapon I had on it was just an attack base 1535, nothing crazy. She has, of course, got a base weapon, and of course, you're going to have weapons that you can just put in her hands to amplify stuff. So definitely some high potential on this when it comes to the damage output, and obviously how quick she can be based on the AP gain on the rush, and apparently AP gain from other sources, because she had 100% AP gain after doing that Adrenaline Rush. So that is very interesting indeed. So yeah, I like this Adrenaline Rush a lot. I don't think it's too crazy in terms of like what it does. 400% damage, like I said, it could probably be improved and being a bit higher, but it's going to be down to you amplifying this with mods, with weapons, with leader skills, with buffs onto Shiva. If you just try and rush with a 400% with no decent amplification, there's just high potential that you're not really going to do much with that, because 400%, like I say, isn't much, and it will rely heavily on actually doing crits to actually get damage. But that's all in your hands. It's up to you what you want to do there. Now, the next part of Shiva's kit is going to be the signature move, and it is called Hidden Threat. It has got an initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 2 turns, number of uses unlimited. This fighter gets camouflage for the rest of combat, attack an enemy for 400% damage. So straight off of turn 1, the camouflage coming in first is interesting. I'm not really sure what that's about so much. It's not really going to stop her from being hit by anything on paybacks or anything like that when it comes to her doing damage, but it will stop her getting hit by other things. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure why that is there, but it is what it is. Attacking an enemy for 400% damage is okay. It's going to be the same damage as her Adrenaline Rush off of one hit. Again, it's going to fully rely on amplifiers, because you're not getting any amplifiers from doing this. When it comes to, you know, based on the character being like a certain trait, getting an extra 300% damage or something like that, not going to happen. So it's all on you to make sure that this does a lot of damage. Again, the same with the Adrenaline Rush. Mods, weapon, leader skill, all that good stuff. So here we are off of turn 1, and what I'll do is I'll use the signature move here against Molly. And as you can see, we will take out Molly. We'll gain a 35 AP, but we'll also gain a little bit more AP based on just something that's happened. I think it's pretty obvious what the thing potentially is, but we did gain an extra bit of AP. This means we've got a natural turn 2 Adrenaline Rush, or a command turn 1 Adrenaline Rush without Laura, which is actually kind of cool. You could potentially then use 2 commands, 1 Laura and 1 for someone else. Very old school to go back to 2 commands, but you'd have to have a very specific setup to get that right. Now, if we look at the upgrades on the signature move, you can see at grade 2 it gets -1 to cooldown, so it goes from a 3-turn cooldown down to a 2-turn cooldown. At grade 4 it gets an upgrade where this fighter gets camouflage for the rest of combat. At limit break 1 it gets plus 200% damage, so it goes from 200% up to 400%. And then at limit break 3, as expected, it'll get -1 to starting cooldown, so it'll go from a 2-turn starting cooldown down to a 1-turn starting cooldown. Like I said, same with the Adrenaline Rush. If we get all 5 characters instantly like the previous characters, this doesn't matter too much. You will be required, obviously, to tier the character up, silvers, all that good stuff, but this won't be too much of a problem to actually get completely maxed out. It'll be interesting if they approach this like Awakening, where they give you the character fully maxed out already. That'd be kind of cool. Honestly, I think a lot of people would appreciate that. I would really appreciate that, purely based on medals, but we'll have to see what Scopely decide to do there. I think this signature move again is nice. The camouflage is interesting. I can't really figure out why that's happening there. It isn't going to do anything for Shiva on her own attack. It's just going to protect her from other people's attacks. The rest of the team does need camouflage at the same time to really get that to happen properly. I would have preferred something else. I'm not really sure what else. Maybe even a Guardian Shield would have been nicer. Kind of like the same deal that Sophia gets, but just on the Sig instead of the Rush. That could have been kind of cool. But otherwise, it's okay. It's just a bit of damage. She does get some potential procs within her passives, and that's what I think is going to be the big deal here. Again, you need to amplify this big time. Now here comes the mythic abilities. These are the passives. These are going to make the big difference to this kit, because at the moment it is pretty much just, you know, pure damage. So it needs extra bits and pieces. Agility is going to help. The Rush is going to help the signature move and basic attacks. So agility is definitely worth upgrading. The first passive is called Thrill of the Hunt. When this fighter decapitates an enemy, this fighter gets 50% of their max AP. This is how you were seeing off of turn 1 on the signature move. They were getting 100% AP because they got 35 from doing the Sig plus 50% for decapping an enemy. This is obviously massive. It works on the Adrenaline Rush 2, which has the potential to decap 2. But if you get unlucky and only decap 1, then obviously you get 50% AP back on the Adrenaline Rush just to make up for it, just in case there is not a line of enemies to attack, or there's like a lot of camouflage on the defense team or something like this. That is actually kind of cool. The next passive is called Leveled Ground. At the start of each turn, 100% chance to normalize a random enemy for 1 turn. This is massive at the start of each turn as well, and it's going to constantly have the chance to proc. So if you're coming up against an Eris and she's the last one alive, it's just going to have a constant proc chance, and eventually you could get there, you know, on turn 2 or turn 3, and that would be very nice. It will only ever try and proc against characters that have specialist skills too. So if, let's say, you've got a leader and a specialist left, it will always target the specialist. This is very important to note, but this can be resisted. So if characters do have resists, then they can potentially resist, but if they have no resist, this is always going to hit. Next up is called 9 lives. At the start of each turn, 100% chance this fighter gets 10% Halo for each enemy with a debilitating status effect for 1 turn. So up to 50% Halo off of turn 1, and then obviously as you take enemies out, you're going to reduce the potential here, but obviously there needs to be debilitating status effects on the enemy for this to work. This is going to protect you against things like Reflect, which is kind of important, where she will get revived by the Halo. It's nice, not too much of an amplifier on these passives to actually boost the damage though. Again, you're going to fully rely on your own weapons and mods and so on and so forth. There's nothing to boost damage here, but it is kind of nice, some of the things that it's bringing to the table. Normalize at the start of the turn, and then the 50% AP on decaps. Those are the big ones on these passives for sure. So as I attack again, you can see that my character has got Halo because I have got Laura on the team, and she does impair, I think, up to 2 enemies who are of the support role. There is only 1 here, but we get 20% Halo because Shiva normalized the character as well. So the normalize is always going to proc her own Halo as long as it lands, and obviously the normalize has landed on Angel at the top. It could have landed on anybody. It can land on someone who is an Outlast. It can land on someone who is a Payback. Obviously, this is always going to be pretty nice to just proc. There's not really be any sort of downside. Now, if I do my my signature move, I normally gain 35 AP, so I will go up to 65. But you should see me gain just like 1 AP. It actually says 33. And that's because of me getting the decap. And now you can see I've got the adrenaline rush. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to defend on the other characters, and then I'll rush the top line. And then what you should see is I should get my adrenaline rush back instantly, because as long as I decap this line. First one's going to get decapped. Oh no, the first one doesn't get decapped. That's actually good. This is just to show you that the 50% AP you get in the adrenaline rush itself is very useful. Because if you don't decap 2, like in this case, then obviously you're going to be able to get adrenaline rush as long as you decap the second one. I could then command her, and now she's got 100% attack boost, and then I could obviously go for the other line if it was still alive, so on and so forth, or a more tanky character just with a massive amount of attack boost now. And as you can see, because I rushed again and I decapped again, I'm going to have my adrenaline rush again. But obviously I'm going to miss a turn because of command. But that still is kind of crazy. You did see the amount of damage output I did against Angel was not like amazing. And that's because she has not got a great upgraded weapon. She has not got mods. And she hasn't got like one of the top tier attack leaders right now at least. Also, those attack versus mods are going to be very important on Shiva. Doubling down seems like a good idea. Probably on 2 traits that aren't alert, just so you do as much damage output as possible. If we look at the upgrades though on her passives, you can see at grade 1 she gets the first half of Thrill of the Hunt, where this fighter gets 20% of their max AP when getting a decap. At grade 2 she gets 10% increase the basic attack damage with agility 1, and at grade 3 she gets Thrill of the Hunt 2 when she gets the other 30% AP when hitting a decap. That's going to obviously be 50% AP total. Moving on to grades 4 and 5, we get the first half of Leveled Ground at the start of each turn, 50% chance to normalize a random enemy for 1 turn. And at grade 5, we get the first half of 9 lives at the start of each turn, 50% chance this fighter gets 10% Halo for each enemy with a debilitating status effect for 1 turn. Into the limit breaks, we can see limit break 1, agility 2 comes in, making it 20% increased basic attack damage total. That is going to work with her signature move, Adrenaline Rush. Basic attacks are definitely worth upgrading. She needs boosts. That's the only thing that actually boosts her damage in all of her passives. Then at limit break 2, she gets level ground 2 at the start of each turn, 50% chance to normalize a random enemy for 1 turn. That goes up to 100% obviously because it stacks. And at limit break 3, she gets 9 lives 2, where it'll be another 50% chance this fighter gets 10% Halo for each enemy with a debilitating status effect for 1 turn. And like I said, it procs off of her normalize. That's really nice. But anyone else obviously that brings in some debilitating status effects, it's just going to give her higher Halo. The percentage of Halo just means how much HP she's going to have when she gets revived. So if she's got 40% Halo, when she gets picked up at the beginning of her turn, she would have 40% of her max HP. If she's only got 10%, she'll have 10% of her max HP. So like Reflect will be a bit more problematic there, but even with basic attacks. But generally speaking, Reflect's always problematic for attack team characters, especially ones with not crazy high HP. She's got 22k HP, which I don't see people improving, but it isn't the worst I've seen. I think there's like some 17ks out there, but it's basically just worthwhile noting. Always will proc because of a normalize. I like that. It isn't just going to be like you have to take other characters in to give her the Halo potential, but normalize can get resisted. Just worth noting. So I like her passives. They are really good, but there is nothing in here except agility that is amplifying that damage, and that damage isn't crazy high. Those 400% aren't that high. You're gonna really need to have a really good weapon on this character. Things that amplify the damage based on the HP of the character. Remember, all of her attacks can crit, so that means that all weapons are going to work in her hands pretty much. So as long as you've got a really nice weapon that does extra damage based on the enemy's HP, or maybe like with status effects. There was that tough weapon, I think it was Commander John's weapon, where if you're attacking a character with a debilitating status effect, you'll get extra attack, and that would obviously work really well in Shiva's hands. But obviously, it's up to you what you want to do. You could potentially go for all-out rampage weapon, so on and so forth. But we could also look at her base weapon, which we will look at in just a second. But first, we'll just take a little peek at the specialist skill. And that specialist skill is going to be beheading. When this fighter takes out an enemy, that target is decapped and cannot be revived. When this fighter attacks a target that has 20% or less of their max HP, including bonus HP, the target will be instantly taken out. This is, I think, execute and decap combined, and it is a nice specialist skill for sure. This will obviously proc some of her passives. If she hits the killing blow, she is going to proc the 50% AP gain, which just means she's going to have a faster adrenaline rush. She could potentially rush turn 2 naturally, which is actually really, really good. And then you could potentially command her after doing her rush turn 2 to rush again if she decaps like a line of enemies. High potential on Shiva. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's all in your hands though. It's definitely based on how you build her. Now Shiva has got an attached weapon, and it is Shiva the Destroyer's Savage Claws. It has got 45% attack, a huge bonus to AP when attacking, improved double attack with crit up when attacking, a 60% chance to land a second attack with 175% attack and 40% crit for 2 turns. And in the last one, it has Raging Rampage. Critical attacks will hit 3 other enemies on the same side of the battlefield for 150% damage. This is obviously a really nice weapon. It is also giving you an extra upgrade if you, for instance, want to swap something out. For instance, if you want to swap out the last thing for a 1535, not recommended on the Raging Rampage, but maybe you want to swap out the double attack for bonus attack against characters with certain HP. That would potentially be recommended just because it's guaranteed. I don't like the weapon though. I will say this, as much as it looks nice, again, it's not amplifying her damage in any way. It's fully RNG. You have to hit the 60% to hit the double attack, and you have to hit a crit to hit the extra attack on other enemies. I prefer guarantees on the target that I'm facing, especially considering her kit has bonuses for decapping the enemy that she's attacking. So you definitely want to do as much damage to at least a single target as possible. The extra hits off of a rampage could be nice if there's a lot of weakened enemies, but generally speaking, that's not going to happen too regularly. It's better to try and do as much damage to a single target. So I'm almost instantly going to switch out this weapon, but it is really nice. I'm just not a big fan of RNG on weapons anymore. Things like double attack just aren't it for me anymore. So this was a little look at Shiva the Destroyer, who is going to be the Warrior Champions reward character, and she has some very high potential, very quick rush potential, multi-rush potential even, but it's going to rely fully on how you build her. So obviously the stuff you've already got in your roster, like your weapons and so on and so forth, are going to make a massive difference to the power of Shiva. The mods are going to make a massive difference to the power of Shiva. She doesn't get any amplification in her entire kit, which is kind of nuts. If you team her up with certain teammates, that could be really good. You know, characters that give out attack buffs, that sort of thing. It's going to be very important, honestly. Shiva needs as much damage as possible, and she pretty much is going to rely on outside sources for the attack buffs, or, like I said, just insane weapons and mods and so on and so forth. I do really look forward to getting my hands on her, but yeah, I think it's going to be hard to get her to like really, really hit significantly hard. Those 400% just don't look nice, honestly, but we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can do. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about Shiva. The art, obviously, is sick. One of the nicest looking characters. Shiva doesn't have to work too hard to look amazing, but she looks even amazing just for Shiva. I like the fact that it's got like a ridge on the back of her armor. I know that would be like to deflect blades, but it's kind of like got that shark kind of visual there. It's kind of cool. But yeah, like that is the end of my video, guys. Feel free to leave any thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.